Happy Friday.
Hey guys.
Happy Friday.
How are y'all doing today?
Good. How are you?
Good.
Doing well. I'm super excited that Pat is joining us today. This is Pat from the Pat Cave, so follow him on YouTube. He's going to be joining us today to talk about props and his favorite props on the market and things that he wants to see made.
Good deal. Hey Pat, how you doing?
Great. Thank you for having me on.
Man, thank you for your videos lately. So everybody knows Pat. We met him. Well, we'd seen some every once in a while. You had commented on some of our socials, and then you were kind enough to do some video on some of our product that we've put out, some of our collectibles. So everybody knows Pat's got a great channel. He reviews a lot of people's stuff, not just ours. And more importantly, he actually buys what he reviews. So it's a brutally honest and a sincere review when he does one. So it's not like the skids are being greased or anything like that. And we want to start having more and more people on these videos, on these chats with us who can kind of speak to, and corner us on these videos and ask us what they want and tell us what they like and they don't like. So Pat had recently picked up what's the last thing you got was the Lost Boys bottle, right?
Right, the Lost Boys blood bottle, yeah. And it's incredible, yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thank you. Yeah, we talked about that one before, all the work that went into it. Tyler and I used to always go off about, man, that thing was close to 2 years getting it together. And just everything about it just fought us. We started with the base bottle, trying to find the general shape. And then when we were like, Eureka, we have found what we thought was, it was pretty dialed into the sourced bottle. And, who knows what.
Oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No. I was going to say, as with most prop makers, it probably was what somebody drank the night before. It was probably a bottle of some weird bottle of Boone's Farm or something. Who knows? And it made its way to the set the next day, and then it got dressed out and bedazzled with everything that they did to it. But when we set out to find that shape, man. We were on the phone with each other. We were like in liquor stores. We were, remember that, Amy? We're all on, calls with one another, and we're like, all right, I've got this such and such a bottle, and we're holding stuff up and showing each other. And we finally track it down, and we get our factory in China to start looking for it, and they find them, but not enough to complete the run. So we ultimately ended up custom making those bottles, and they were made we never thought we'd have to deal in glass, with what we do. So we ended up custom making those, and then it just became a challenge of, for those who don't know, everything on the bottle is metal, and all the little facets and things that hold the jewels are metal. So our odyssey began, referencing printing, testing, and then finally getting to our molds to make all those things. And then we thought we were done. And then it was like, oh no, how hand hammered does the metal look, and how weathered do we make it, and so forth. So a lot went into that bottle, and it's just out of complete love for Lost Boys. We all love the Lost Boys. So it's a long-winded way of saying thank you for picking that up. I'm glad you like it.
Yeah, I love it. Yeah, I remember thinking like, who could, because I know you guys went through like painstaking effort, and I know you said in your other video that you couldn't access the original bottle because of COVID, I think, at the time. And did you guys ever end up seeing that eventually, like after that was over or anything, or just to like compare, like, oh, this is ours, this is theirs, like to see how it turned out?
We never got into the Warner vaults, as it were. We had pictures. We had a couple skewed pictures. Oddly enough, the bottle was mixed with a bunch of urns, and out of its element, you wouldn't have recognized it. When they're storing their props, bottles tend to go with other bottles, and pots and pans go with pots and pans. So once you've taken it out of its element, you've knocked the dirt off it, and there's nothing in it. It looks kind of, while it's just sitting up there with a bunch of other glass and pots and pans and crap, there's nothing really interesting about it. But the pictures that we had of it were mixed with the screen caps and everything we were able to grab. We were able to get about as dialed in as you could. But getting Um, you know, there's not a lot of perks that go with what we do. Uh,
Yeah.
we always joke that we work in the entertainment industry and it just doesn't feel like it. You know, there's certain events we go to, like we'll go to License Expo, and sometimes you get to go out of the country and visit different studios and that sort of thing, and that's cool. But most often, it's this electronic water cooler chat that we all do with each other. With everybody being remote, and we get on the phone with each other, Zooms or Skypes, and we just talk about what we do. Like we've referenced before, it's very isolating, but yes, going to the studios is supposed to be a perk. Getting any kind of cooperation to get into Warner Brothers was not going to happen. It's funny. A friend of mine who's really into like the Batmobiles and everything. We might have to have him on one day. I was going to name drop, but just in case he gets his license, I don't want to set him up for disappointment. Anyway, he's like, dude, he's naming all these things he wants to do, and he's like, I just need to get into the museum, as it were, the vaults to check out some pieces and confirm some stuff for my projects. And he goes, what's the likelihood of that happening once I get my license? And I'm like, probably none. Probably none. They kept blaming COVID when we wanted to get in and get stuff, but even after that, we kept feeling like we were getting punted. Like, oh well, maybe we'll be able to talk about that next quarter. Maybe once everybody's still remote, maybe we'll do this. I just got the impression they didn't want anybody in. So, like we had referenced in a bunch of other videos, that's not to say we didn't have cooperation on a great many of our projects, like when we did the Batglyph, for instance. The film was still, Amy, was it still in production, or were we getting into post by then? It was still in production.
I think we started that project during the end of production, and then a lot of the communication that we were doing about packaging and everything was in post production. But it was
Right.
definitely not out yet.
So yeah, to give you an example, Pat, on something like that, when we were doing the Batglyph, we were communicating directly with production. They were sending us the files and even videos showing us how some of the things worked. And we were under these crazy NDAs, but that was an example of where we did have some nice cooperation. The glyph that we did was pretty. I mean, it's exactly what you see, on film in the chest, and that was a good example of everything was firing. But the Lost Boys bottle, yeah, it was a fluke when what we believe is it or one of, who knows how many they made, for production. But yeah, it was enough to answer a few questions, demystify a couple things. But
Yeah.
yeah, the screen caps, there's some really good up close stuff on that bottle, and
Yeah.
just what they probably did to that, a product of its time. Somebody probably went into merry-go-round and bought some bracelets and
I was
some
wondering. Yeah.
necklaces and a couple belts, and kind of cobbled together what you see on there. It was probably incredibly simple, but making it nightmarish for us all those years later to replicate
Also,
and guess.
also that piece in the archives that we suspect we located, it was missing a lot. A lot of it had
Yeah.
broken off throughout the
Yeah.
years.
Oh,
So there's some of it that's just gone, lost to time. So the screen grabs that we were able to, pull and get some real HD images of, that's really all that exists of that anymore.
I was thinking that it seems fragile. Some of the, like, where the parts would be, like, they could snap off
Yeah.
easily, just based on like other props that I've had that were kind of similar. Just things you have to be careful with. But
Yeah, sometimes what we do, there's a little bit of almost archaeology involved, where we've got you're trying to put the skeleton back together, and okay, here's what we're missing here, here's what we're missing there. So again, a full 2 years getting that thing to where it was, and then we joke that we're the only ones dumb enough to have actually made it. There's a reason why nobody made that bottle in all those years, that nobody licensed it, and then we were silly enough to come along and kind of write a little love letter to it, and do that bottle. So
yeah, that was a great idea.
and,
I think you guys came up with doing things like that haven't been done before that people love. Like, I think it's brilliant, because like I said, I never would have been able to get one if you guys hadn't made one. So
well, and that means a lot coming from somebody like you, because you've you've got your own passion for Lost Boys. For those of you who don't know, so everybody remembers Marco's jacket. The guys. What the boys are wearing in the film, it's all pretty cool. And Marco in particular has a very interesting jacket, and we'll have Sean put up some photos of it as we go. But Pat, you want to talk about that a little bit, because it's such a cool prop, man, and it really speaks to your passion as a collector and and a creator.
Yes, I'm sorry, the photos I need to send them. I'll try and do that while I'm talking about it. Yeah, so I love.
No, don't you don't have to do that
Mark.
now. We'll plug them in after the fact. But
Oh, okay, gotcha. Yeah, so I've loved Lost Boys since I was a kid. I think it's one of the few VHS horror films that we had at the time, and the bottle, of course, is always like a favorite of mine. And then the Marco's jacket. I think I say this in my series. I did like a DIY series where I make my own replica, but I just really liked how it had all these different colors and patterns, and there was just like so much going on. And then the other three vampires, their costumes are unique, but they're all just kind of black and dark colors. So it always stood out to me, and I was like, oh, that'd be cool. And I used to draw pictures of it as like a kid. So I think, I saw that thread on the RPF come up, and it's sort of overwhelming when you start looking at what you need to do to make one. And I think for like years, because that's been on there for like 6 years or 5 years maybe, and I was like, oh, there's no way I'm going to like attempt to do that, because I didn't know how to sew either. So I got to learn a lot as I was putting this jacket together. So that's another nice thing about it. But I think I was laying in bed one day. I'm like, I really want to make that, but I'm like, do I want to commit all this time and, money trying to track down all these items? And the tapestries, the costume designer had messaged me a couple times, and she had said this before too, though, about finding those tapestries that they cut up at like flea markets in LA back in the day. And, back then they were cheap, but like right now there's an original one on eBay of there's two ladies. There's one on the front here on the shoulder and one on the back. And I think that one's like $700 on eBay. And, it's just some vintage rug. And if you bought it, you need to cut it up to throw it on there. So, and then the patches are sort of the same thing. They're just impossible to find now. Even like I remember looking at flea markets here, or like when I was like traveling to the antique stores, and they have patches, but can never find any of the ones that actually went on the jacket. And it took about, I think, 6 months to put together. So ended up turning out amazing, though. I think I'm missing 2 out of the 25 patches. And one was like a Viking that's on the very bottom. And then the other one was, it was like a set with this patch that said Outlaw. And then there's another one that says Back Off. And they have like this kind of like glittery thread running through them. But those were the only 2 I couldn't locate. Someone had the Back Off patch, and they were willing to sell it to me, but I think it wasn't the right colors. Instead of like blue and gold, I want to say it was like black and silver or something. And being the perfectionist that I am, I didn't want to have the wrong colors on there. So I just slapped a replica, because I would have had to probably pay quite a bit to get that, if it wasn't the right colors. I figured I'll just make a replica in the meantime to stick on there. So my plan is to find those 2 eventually. And, I'm sure at some point in my life, hopefully I'll come across them and then just be able to finally finish it up like in 100%. But
it's a great piece, and like you said, I've loved it, and just you gotta want it. Man, you gotta want it to make that thing. And as the pictures are probably rolling right now, as this is being shown, everybody can see that, man. There's crazy shit happening there. There's like a matador patch, right? Isn't there a matador?
Yeah.
And then there's.
Peacock.
Am I wrong? There's like a warrior skull.
That had to be like custom made too. I guess they made those. There's 2 patches that were chain stitched. I mean, I didn't know what that was before I started making the jacket, but I guess chain stitch patches were like how old biker patches were made back in the day, apparently, on a special machine. And now they're all done in a factory, mostly like with some fancy machine. But I found someone on Etsy that was able to make, two of them. There was a Warriors patch, and there's one on the left arm that's it's like Werewolf Bikers of something. It's like some old movie.
Right, yeah, it's great.
But yeah, I've never seen either of those, but I had to get the designs made for those, and then I found someone to chain stitch them. And then on the one on the left arm, I guess the edge is sewn like with a marrow stitch. It's called like a regular patch stitch, and there's no places around here that do that anymore either. So I had to drive, I think it's about an hour to this nearest city, and they have a place there that does biker patches. And it's kind of funny because the guy in there is like, oh, like the bikers are the worst. They're worse than girls with their prom dresses. Because he said that they're very like particular about how they want their patches to look and the way they're stitched on the edges. And he said that like they won't like leave them there. They have to like wait for them to be finished and then take them, I think he said. So it's just, yeah, but there's some really cool things, you know, that I learned about like those patches. And there's the Matador that's on this side. And then there's a peacock below that's kind of chopped up and pieces are stuck all over. And then there's, you know, the two ladies, and I'm trying to remember what the other one was. Oh, there's a bull kind of on this arm. And over here, there's just like pieces everywhere. There's like 13 skull patches on there. Yeah, lots of good stuff.
Yeah, it's really cool. And then it's all topped off with what is that? It's a fishing lure, right? Yeah. It's a rig. Yeah, that's pretty neat.
Yeah, and that's kind of a funny thing too. Just another example of how impossible everything is to find on that jacket. Those. You know, there's a lot of vintage squidlers on eBay and Google, but those particular colors, I guess, aren't really available. So this guy that I know, he's really nice, and he ended up doing like a run of. He had them like made, like I think like 10 or 12 of them from some companies. Jeez, yeah. So he helped me out with those. Thank God. I don't know what I would have done otherwise. But
no, it's really cool. That's really cool. Now, some of the other pieces. As far as your collection goes, which way do you lean? Like, I'm kind of a sci-fi gadget guy. I like stuff that does things and shoots fire and, you know, opens and closes, and so sci-fi gadgets. But I'll lean into things like you have. Like, let's talk about your collection first, then we could talk about like ruby slippers and that kind of offshoot thing. But where when you're curating, where do you go? What's some of your favorite stuff?
I would say, well, actually, kind of funnily enough, in the background of your video, I think I have that same Mystic Seer. Is that from Entertainment Earth? Yeah,
it is. It is. In fact, I've got. I mentioned that in another video. I've got two of them because I ultimately plan to kind of bash them to make what I believe the original probably was. I'm pretty sure the original was just silver sheet metal. And they were, you know, they of course wrapped it over the Swami, and then the devil head was probably just a hot rod head, you know, whether it was for a rear view mirror or a gear shift or something of its time. But yeah, I like it so much. I don't believe the original was red though, but now I've got it in my mind's eye that it might have been. So I do like it looking over my shoulder. And the one they've got at Disney at the Hollywood Tower, you know, the Tower of Terror at Disney in the library. I believe theirs is red too, but it's red with a red skull. So probably what I'll do with mine is I'll take the silver one, the glow. What they did is their glow in the dark one. Change a few things around, stick the red skull on it. I think I'll be a little closer. We should just grow one. I should just make one at work, but somebody's already done the work, and we're collectors too. You know, we always say I'm not afraid of showing another company's stuff off if we like it. I mean, we've all got different pieces from other companies, and I thought they did a good job with that. So yeah, I'm fond of it. Twilight Zone's where it's at, man.
People love that thing when they come to my house. I'll be like, hey, it actually works too. You put a penny in and it'll like ask it a question and it like pops out a fortune. It's kind of cool.
I didn't know it worked. That's awesome.
Yeah, I've been running the company on that thing's advice for the last 12 months. Were you wondering where I'm at? I'm in a corner crying, talking to this thing.
You know, all right, I want my fortune read the next time I'm in Myrtle Beach.
It'll tell you what's up. It'll tell you what's up. But so you like a lot of the horror stuff, right, Pat? You've got, clearly you've done the. Tell me about your cabinets, the 13 Ghosts themed cabinets. Did you make those?
Yeah, well, so
did you etch them or?
Oh well, all my cabinets and stuff came from IKEA, and I liked how they're modular, you know, so you can pick what doors you want on there and stuff. And those are Billy bookcases I bought a long time ago. I think they're the same ones Adam Savage has in his cave. But 13 Ghosts is like a favorite of mine for horror films. I'm trying to get my wife to watch it this year. I don't know if it's going to be that. She doesn't really watch it. So yeah, but
But you've got the spells on the doors, right? You've got.
Yeah.
How did you do that?
Oh man, that was that's the how difficult it was to accomplish. That was why the other one wasn't done. So originally I was going to have it running across both
Yeah.
cabinets,
Right.
and I was trying to get a place originally to just do decals, and then it was going to be like just ridiculously expensive. And even finding that font was kind of hard. I don't even know if you can find it anymore. I had bought it a long time ago. Someone had offered a copy for like $10, so I wanted to use it. So what happened was I blew up the font and typed out, it's Latin. And I think the Lord's Prayer, they said, was on some of the walls. So that's what's on mine, is I just, typed it and translate on Google or something. And then they printed it on this, it's like it's kind of like stick-on paper for mirror etching. So I printed all the doors on there. And then my friend came over and we had to, peel those decals off. But first we had the hardest part was you had to cut all of it out with an X-Acto knife, and there's so many swirls and like little tiny circles and dots. It was very like time consuming and tedious. And we ended up doing, I think it's got 4 panels, and there's like 2 rows of text on each piece of glass. So we did that, just got it on, and then put I had glass etching cream. I'd done that like in high school, I think. So I knew about that. And then I think the trickiest part I remember thinking was, how am I going to like wash off the cream afterwards? Because the doors, you can't take the glass out. So I think I had to get in the shower with it and like hose it down to get all the glass.
Dedicated.
Yeah. That's I think if I was a millionaire or a billionaire, I guess maybe I would totally make my house like the 13 Ghost House. Well, I don't know if my wife would let me, but that'd be at least the prop area would be all glass with all those etchings going across. I just think it's so cool looking in the movies, and it kind of lends that aesthetic as kind of like how I like my collection to be, just very clean, which is kind of why I've done a restructuring lately in there. So I haven't shot a video since, but kind of had to move my cabinets around because as much as I love those glass doors on there, it's hard to light it because they're behind me.
Yeah.
So anytime you have, I have a ring light. I don't even have a professional light, and when the light's on there, you can see it like reflecting off the doors, and it's hard to work with. So I moved the bigger cabinet I have with white like behind me and took the doors off of that one. But I would like to get the other Billy done, but I don't know if I have the energy to devote to that right now.
I think it looks good, man. So how long have you been collecting, would you say?
Maybe since 2002, around there. I think. Are you familiar with Monsters in Motion?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So I used to live down like towards Valencia a long time ago before I moved up where I'm at now. And my dad, he knows the owner there pretty well, and he took me when I was little. I remember, and we'd go look at all like the model. They had like a really big shop back then. You could go walk around inside. You guys probably, I don't know if you remember that, but and I loved old 80s horror films. So I loved Puppet Master. I don't know if you guys have seen those, but I think Monsters in Motion released a replica of Blade back in the early 2000s, and I think that was the first prop I remember buying. I remember trying to make other stuff like the grapple gun from Batman, but that was when I was like 10, and it's made out of like little wood pieces and cardboard, so nothing fancy. But yeah, and then my dad, I remember one time he told me, he's like, I was down on Monsters in Motion today. They had all the screen used puppets from Puppet Master there on the glass case. I'm like, you didn't take any pictures for me? I'll never forgive him from that, because like I was always obsessed with those. Even now, I like love them. I don't really, I have them all, so there's not much more to that. But it was just, I think that was the first prop I remember buying, though. And I have, I've collected other things, since then, obviously. But I remember you kind of asking what I collect primarily, and I would say it's a lot of kind of like gadget type stuff, or I like sci-fi weapons a lot. I love Men in Black. Those are some of my favorite movie guns. And I love the Blade Runner blaster too that you guys did. I just it's not in the budget right now, but I would like to get one of those eventually, in Batman's grapple gun. So a lot of like sci-fi weapons. I like horror movie props, 13 Ghosts, of course. And then I've got that. I don't know if you guys saw the Cabin in the Woods. It's like a puzzle box here. Yeah, and Rick Gamez had made the original one, and I got one of those finally after he was going to do a run on the RPF like a long time ago, and and he for whatever reason, I think it's probably because he hand painted them himself and assembled them all. So I think he just decided he didn't want to end up making them. But I was able to get. I think I'm one of the only people probably that has one of those besides him. So that's
Didn't
kind of
he
cool.
also? He was responsible for the MIB1 props, right? Wasn't he?
Yeah, that's
Didn't he
right.
do
Yeah,
it?
that's how I had heard of him initially. And he used to have a website up where he had pictures of all the original guns after he made them. And you I think did you say in another video that you worked at Unobtainium at some point in the past?
In association with, yes.
Okay.
So early on, I think everybody worked with Unobtainium at some point or another. There were a couple guys, partners at Unobtainium, and I think they'd gone different ways. And then me and another friend of mine, they were having a hard time landing. Well, this one particular guy was having a hard time landing his noisy crickets. And then he'd struck a deal with me and another guy to help him shepherd those in. And then we worked on the neuralizer that never happened. So yeah, I came in and did engineering for them for a short period. And when I say them, by that point, it was one guy. This was after their enterprise issues that they had. But yes, to answer your question, I did some stuff with them.
Okay. Yeah, I was just asking because I know they were going to do some Men in Black props, and I know there was icons. I remember that's another thing. When I was a kid, we got a catalog in the mail. I don't remember what company it was. It wasn't like a prop replica company. It was just some like company that sold novelties, but it had the noisy cricket that Icons was selling at the time, like like back in the 90s. And I remember thinking like, holy crap, like I wanted that so bad, but back then I didn't have a job or anything, so that wasn't going to happen. But
yeah, Icons used to do some great catalogs. They were the first ones to really come along and give that, it had all their stuff. Well, it was made by real prop makers made all their stuff, and they would stick things in the cases, and it had a very, Planet Hollywood was new at the time, so it had a very Planet Hollywood-esque collector's kind of real exclusive vibe to it.
Yeah,
and they did some real good stuff in the beginning. But yeah, they were supposed to have done the cricket. I don't know if they ever released the noisy cricket. Maybe they did.
Yeah, I think they got a few.
Did they actually? Did Icons did? So they did do. Icons did do the noisy cricket. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
And then, like I said, by the time Unobtainium had come along and did that noisy cricket, what was interesting is we had requested a lot of reference for those from Sony. And I remember they just sent this back in the day. Can you imagine this now, Jared? I might have told you about this. They literally just sent me a ratty box filled with parts. There was a neuralizer in it. There was stuff from MIB2 in there also, like the communicator. But yeah, there was a Hero neuralizer. There were pieces of crickets, just all these parts, and it was just at a time when auctions weren't selling stuff for tens of thousands of dollars, and to them it was just junk. But yeah, we referenced all the original stuff, and we're cocked and loaded to get those neuralizers going. And I think all we ended up doing, we got the noisy crickets out. Some of the I think by then the pumpkin bomb that they had done was shipping, but somebody else designed that, and then the newspapers, and they were done. They just went away.
One prop that I wish they had done that nobody's done, since, or even like mentioned it, is the J2 pistol from Part 2. That's like got two barrels. Like that's one I would love to see made. I own one of them. I own like a casting, I think, from back when an Obtainium is around, and I have one, but it's not, obviously it's not machined or it's just resin, I think. But that'd be a really cool prop. I don't know. Have you guys ever? Because Men in Black, I think, is owned by licensed by a different company, but I didn't know. Like I know how they, like you said, they do like multiple licenses. Have you guys ever looked at anything with Men in Black?
We've got a dear friend over at Sony in licensing, and we always talk about stuff we should do and that we want to do, but we've not licensed anything with Sony, and that's who has MIB.
Yet.
And we've not done anything with them yet, but we want to. We kind of got to pick a lane. There's only so much stuff we can make in the course of a year. and we've got some other partners that are coming on that are going to occupy a lot of time. But we do speak with them. Usually once a year or so, we'll sit down and talk about some what ifs, some things we want to do. We played with last time we spoke with Sony. We were talking about maybe doing some stuff from The Boys, and I'm not going there, Amy. Don't worry.
I know. I'm just
don't worry.
It.
And but we talked about some stuff we might do for The Boys, and
cool.
Maybe the optics weren't the best, so we took a pass. But never know. But we are vigilant. So if there's something out there and it's cool, chances are we've noticed it and have talked about doing something from it. But nothing from them yet. Toho's about to take up a lot of time. We've really got a lot going on with Toho. And lots of cool things coming from them. They're just such a joy to work with, and they've got so much reference that it's just a wonderful playground for us to be able to get to these pieces and reference them and truly be able to say, hey, this was recreated from a hands-on study of this piece. It's just a perfect again relationship for us to have. So
yeah. Oh, very cool.
Jared, you got anything else for Pat? Because if we don't wrap it up soon, this thing's never going to work on Instagram. So
I'm a big fan of the horror collectibles and props as well. Is there anything out there that you have not seen done or not seen done in so long that it deserves kind of a revisit?
Let me get my list out here. Actually, I actually have like about 20 things on this list that I feel like we'd be here all day.
No, proceed. Run down the list. Whoa.
So this,
hang on, let me give our stenographer a chance to get ready. All right, Amy, go.
Okay, so the Monster Squad amulet is something I've never seen a replica of that I love, and I love that movie. That'd be something I thought would be really cool to see.
Those designs were awesome. I love those creatures.
Yeah, Stan Winston, I think, right?
I believe so. And
so that's one. You had the amulet, and I know I think someone owns. The guy that owns Ant Cool News, I think, owns like one of the original ones. I've got the 13 Ghosts, the Spectral Viewers. I think they were called the glasses from 13 Ghosts. That'd be a really cool one. The House 2 Crystal Skull. Did you guys see House 2? A lot of people have seen it.
Jared and I were just talking about House and House 2 not a few days ago. We were talking about it. Yep.
That skull would be awesome. I don't think I've even seen a picture of like the original prop other than the screen captures from the movie.
Yep.
Let's see. Oh, this isn't a horror prop, but I know that. Have you guys ever seen The Saint with Val Kilmer?
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
I know you like gadget props, so I own like one of the screen used pocket knives that he has in the movie.
Oh, dude.
Yeah, and this one was, I don't know how you guys can see that, but yeah, this one.
Oh, that's cool.
I want to say it was made by Asylum Props, I heard. And they told me this was the version that he pulls the torch out of the top. It has that little ring and he like kind of pulls it. And there's like a hole in the top here. So I'm assuming that's probably what happened. But I've never seen a replica of that. So that'd be a really cool one. So if you guys ever want to borrow it for measurements, this blade.
There you go. Hey.
Yeah, this blade doesn't actually function, but it's a really like beautifully done replica. This little piece here with the shield is missing. So a guy I knew had just made like a fake one to put in there. Just
I enjoyed that movie because he also had a lapel pin, didn't he? There was a pin.
Yeah.
Yeah. I remember that coming up on the RPF.
Yeah.
And oh yeah, for everybody who doesn't know, the RPF, the replica prop forum, again, just a treasure trove of information. You guys will find it at therpf.com, or is it the replica prop forum? Either one will get you there.
therpf.com.
Okay.
Yeah.
And I've been on that forum for over 25 years. So a lot of us have met there. A lot of us farm our information from there. Just a good place for collectors and builders alike. So there's a good RPF plug.
You're kind of like a celebrity on there, I would say.
Oh, stop it.
They'll like post your name and I'm like, oh yeah, there he is. You pop up on all these different threads. This is, the first time I saw one of Paragon's videos, I made the connection. I'm like, oh, this is him from the RPF.
It's so funny. We always say, so Rilo on the RPF. I still get people that I've known for like 20 years, and they'll bump into Paragon, or I'll see them at an expo or something, and they're like, Rilo? And so nobody. I always joke. Nobody knows who Ry Pruitt is. Me, but that guy Rilo, who was you know and yeah, even my mom calls me Rilo. When you're a kid and your name's Ryland, kids can't pronounce it, and that goes to Rollo and Rilo really, really fast, but Rye for short. But yeah, for all the time I spent on the RPF, it's funny that that anonymity of that Rilo, nobody really put it together that we're all doing this thing over at Paragon. So even.
Yeah.
2 years, 2.5, 3 years later, ever how long we've been doing this, too damn long already. Yeah, people are still bumping in and figuring that out. But yeah, I did a lot of stuff on the RPF. I was over there for a long time. Still am, still lurking around, still watching, still learning. So kind of you to embarrass me and say that. But
did you guys ever look at the Blade Runner 2049, like the memory maker device? Because I know you guys were doing a lot of props from Blade Runner 2049, the one where she's like twisting it. It kind of looks like camera lenses.
That one's intense. That's an involved machined piece. Yeah.
We have it, and we're in such a unique position. We know where all the props are, and we can get to them. It just boils down to time and money and engineering cost. While I love all those pieces, we love all things Blade Runner 2049. What we're trying to focus on are things that, some callbacks. I like the idea of the new, the modern Voight-Kampf machine, the more handheld, eye scanner, that sort of stuff. I like that kind of thing a lot. Not really sure how big the market is for it.
Okay.
A lot of people go towards the telltale pieces. How wonderful that we see the same blaster from '82. Deckard's still carrying his the same Roscoe. He's clearly got a sentimental attachment to his old heater, as it were, and he's carrying that thing around. There's a lot of people ask about Kay and Love's gun, and that's in different levels of production with us right now. We're working on the spinner, a studio scale spinner. We've joked before that it's fun that Deckard clearly stole an old school spinner and parked it at his apartment. We get to see it just enough before it gets blown up, but we'll be doing those. We've got a pretty, of course, the Joy Emanator, the broken and the light up one. That's a lot of stuff on top of the Hero Blade Runner gun, the spinner logo that we've done. And it's a long run. We've got another 3 years on our license with,
cool.
our partner there. So lots coming, but in short, to answer your question, yeah, we thought about it. Just not sure the reality of actually making that one.
Expensive, yeah. Speaking of which, speaking of complex props, one thing I heard you mention in another video that I had put on my list here was the cosmic key from Masters of the Universe. That was too.
That's a Grell prop for me. I always love that piece, man. There's so much going on there. I love the fact that it's got these weird looking tuning forks hanging off of it. Just a very clever piece. Would love to do it. Not sure how many people outside of you and I would want it.
Yeah.
Well, Amy, but yeah, that's a favorite, man. Like I said, I'm a fan of so many pieces too. So yeah, I'd love to see that happen, but probably not.
I've got to show you really quick. I've got something. This was something that Icons was going to make a long time ago, and they didn't end up doing it. But
there he goes. It's like having Tyler back. Somebody just, let me go get something. That's great.
The tri-barrel,
dude.
From in Black
so pretty.
Yeah, and this thing took me like a really long time to get put together, but it was mainly due to a friend of mine. He's on the RPF thread named Zombie Killer, but Yeah, it's got like the shotgun thing, all these little
Dude,
bits,
that's
but
amazing.
yeah, that's my favorite thing. And the most involved. I think I took like 10 years to get finished, but
Dude, that's great. I want to talk about that more. We'll definitely have you back on. So because I want to get more into, the hobbyist aspect of things. That's of course we always talk about all the things we make, for retail sell,
yeah,
but Jared's always working on something. Amy's always working on something. I'm always working on something that's never going to see the light of day. Just things we want in our personal collections. And it's great to get into the passion it takes to land some of those things. That's why I wanted to talk about your Marco jacket up front, because it's not a matter of just haphazardly sewing a bunch of shit on a jacket. You got to find all that stuff. Yeah, I mean, you got, like you were saying, there's like some lady who worked at a flea market 40 years ago who made something, and maybe she made 60 of them, and you somebody runs them down, or when you get to the lure, somebody's got to reproduce it because you can't find it in the store anymore. Those are the best pieces. Those are the ones that you got a little blood, sweat,
definitely.
and tears into that you'll never sell. So, well,
That
look, man,
gun. Oh,
oh,
sorry.
go ahead. I'm sorry. No,
Oh,
go
just
ahead. I got a little delay.
I was gonna say that gun, alone, I feel like would be almost a whole episode just telling you the story of how that came to fruition. And I have the other one too, Tommy Lee Jones's gun. That's like a huge shotgun. They called it the train gun, I think Rick Yames did, but that one's not finished though, unfortunately. And I'm trying to get that done, but it's kind of a work in progress. I'm not sure when it's gonna be finished, but it's not finished, so I didn't bring it out here.
Well, we will have you back if you
Yes,
want to come back on,
I'd love
and
to.
We would love to talk that through. That would be so fun.
Yeah, it's been really fun. I was telling Amy that it's like the only person I really get to talk to, aside from online, to just tell my wife things. She's like, "Oh, that's nice." Yeah, she doesn't really, she doesn't understand it like we do. So it's a little different when you get to talk to people that enjoy doing props and making props like you guys. So thank you for having me, though. Definitely, it's been fun.
Oh man, thank you so much for coming on, and like I said, hopefully you'll join us again. We're going to try to get a little a group of people who enjoy coming on, and we'll expand these into 4, 5, 6 of us, whatever, talking about this stuff. And you know, of course, we every so often we talk about what we do, but I enjoy it much more when we get to hear from people like you who are out there still making stuff and tracking things down. So sincerely, thank you for everything you've picked up so far. We didn't get to the ruby slippers, but we'll talk about them next time. We'll talk about ruby slippers next time.
Great excuse to have you back on.
Yeah, I'd love to. Yeah, it's fun. It's been awesome.
And Pat, did you see where we mentioned the Smithsonian carries those ruby slippers now, and the Academy of Arts and Sciences carries the ruby slippers?
I got a good story. Yeah.
So, well, you saved until the last second. We should have covered some of that up front, but we'll have you back. You know what we'll do? We'll do a part 2 very soon.
Hey, that's fine with me. Yeah, I know. I'm sorry, I didn't even think about it until now, but yeah, there's a story there with that, with the museum and all that stuff.
Well, I want to hear all about it, so we'll bring you back for a part 2, and
okay.
so to be continued.
I'd love
all
to.
Right.
Yes.
Amy, you want to wrap us up?
Thank you so much, Pat. We really do appreciate having you on, and
thank you.
Thanks for joining us on this crazy Friday.
Yeah, thank you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, guys. It's been a blast. It's good to get to talk to the team behind the props and stuff. And I love your products. I think you guys are doing great. I think doing stuff like David's bottle that's a little less mainstream. It's like it's got its audience, I think, and it's just might take a little long for some people to come around, but I think it's a good move, business wise. Although I'm not a business expert, so don't quote me on that. But I think it was a brilliant idea to do that. And the ruby slippers are beautiful. So people always notice those when they go in my cave back there. Like, hey, the ruby slippers. So
that's so awesome.
I often joke. Yeah, it's funny when people come in, whether it's at our office or my home collection. Out of all the stuff that's laying around here, it's such an iconic piece. It's magnetic. People go right to it. But again, kind of you to say thank you. So we'll have you back soon. And I'm out, guys. So everybody have a great weekend. We'll see you later.
Great weekend.
Thank you.